think a topic of discussion that I hear a lot on back home really can be distilled into the question of, do you foresee any scenario where American boots would ever be on the ground here in Taiwan?
Well, I think everything we are doing is to prevent that particular hypothetical situation from staying hypothetical, from never actually happening, so that no one will ever have to make painful decisions about going into conflict or war. And that's why deterrence is just so important. That is why strengthening Taiwan's capabilities is just so important. And we are in a very asymmetric situation right now. So while we are very committed to investing in our own self-defense, in defending ourselves and protecting ourselves, it's a very difficult task. And as we are also quite isolated from the international community, we also need advice, support, and help. And we really appreciate the United States through the Taiwan Relations Act, but also through some recent initiatives by Congress, the National Defense Authorization Act, and some other initiatives in supporting co-production opportunities with Taiwan in building defense equipment and technology together, where we also welcome, we're very thankful for some U.S. Initiatives to help train our people, and after all, the United States is the most experienced and top rate, and I think the Taiwanese will feel greater confidence if we know that we are being trained by the best in the world. And so, we have a lot of reforms needed, and we are in the process of doing so. But good coordination with our partners, building together, working together, I think all of that contributes to preventing that particular scenario from ever happening.
And speaking of Washington, I know you've spent a lot of time there. What would you say is the largest misconception that Washington has surrounding Taiwan?
I would say that it would be very dangerous for anyone, not just Washington, but Beijing or anyone in the world. It would be dangerous to underestimate the will of the Taiwanese people to protect and defend ourselves. And the will of the Taiwanese people to protect ourselves, I think, is also the most important part of deterring conflict. And we will certainly continue to work on the necessary reforms and the steps needed to fortify ourselves. But I do want to say that in this area, China is working very hard to project narratives and disinformation in Washington and the United States. They want to project a narrative that Taiwan is weak, that Taiwan's incapable, and that Taiwan is not worth supporting. They also are trying to project Taiwan as a troublemaker in some sense, as if, like, from the first free election we had for the president in 1996, they found that offensive, and they tried to make the argument that is a disruption of the one China policy. Everything we do, including our efforts to defend ourselves, the act of having free elections in Taiwan, the Chinese find offensive. And they tend to put that into a narrative of accusing Taiwan as being troublemakers. And I think that is highly inaccurate. And the only one seeking to disrupt peace and the status quo in this region is the People's Liberation Army. We are all for the status quo and for stability. And I think, although I think most American people are very wise and smart, and they can really see through these psychological warfare, disinformation tactics that are making attempts to divide our countries, our governments, and our peoples, but time and again, sometimes, when you project a lie 10 times, some people catch on to it, and we have to be very careful and vigilant about China's political interference, about their narratives, about their disinformation and psychological warfare, and again, work with each other to fortify, to coordinate, and go beyond, maybe just Taiwan, the United States, but, freedom-loving people around the world also need to be vigilant about these playbooks from authoritarian states.